everybody, croeso. It's been a while since I have recorded myself actually, so I feel quite new here, but I'm here today with Ken, and this is an exciting podcast because I haven't felt the call to actually host a podcast for quite some time now. I think the last was maybe in September or even in the summer of last year. I'm going to start off actually, Ken, by asking you, like, how did we meet and why are we here having this conversation? And then, um, yeah, a little bit about, who you are. But first of all, like, how did we meet?
Oh, how did we meet? I don't know, we kind of ended up sitting around a lovely fire in a lovely festival called Love Jam, and so many things were happening, so many talented people. We ended up shoulder to shoulder, sat around a lovely fire, sharing no, chai tea. Although there might have been some Tai Chi going on somewhere. And we were just amazed by the talent around the fire. The spark of inspiration was with everyone. We fell into talking about our lives, and we had so many little threads coming in. And then a couple of days later, you were doing a workshop, and both of us really felt, wait a minute, I can really learn a lot from this person. And we're kind of very brotherly, sisterly. And here we are.
Mm,
Here we are indeed.
mm,
Um, who am I? Not quite sure at the minute. I'm in a very shape-shifty mode, uh, but I'm essentially 61 years old, Scots-Irish on my mum's side, English, German, Swedish on my dad's, but I was born in Wales, in Llantwit Major, and taken away when I was about three. But the Celtic side's quite strong in me, and I've been diving into sound a lot through music, through singing, through chanting. I've lived a lot in other cultures, in Japan for a long time, in India for a long time, in Canada for a long time. But always there's this pull back to, right, what are your own roots? And they're definitely firmly Celtic. And yet, why was I born in Wales? There's no blood ancestry there, but there's a curious calling from the mysteries. And I think that's probably what united us in this quest. We're on a bit of a quest, aren't we?
mm. Yeah, yeah. You've just reminded me actually, the first time I saw you, it wasn't our meeting, but it was in the tent at the festival where they were just having open discussions. And you were um oh, you're wearing the blue robe.
Was I? Oh, I only break that out on certain occasions, Stella.
Yes, you were wearing the blue robe. I think you had your staff because you'd had a foot or a leg injury or something before then. And they were having a discussion on, um, yeah, like land ownership in the UK. It was the Ubuntu. They were talking about how how
Okay,
how
okay,
to how
yeah.
to start communities and the legalities around community building and things like this. But that's the first time I saw you, and then later that night, I then saw you around the fire, and yeah, I come
Yeah.
down and sat next to you, and I was like just curious about curious about you because you were one of the older people there, especially around
Mm,
the fire in the night, and
yeah.
you told a story, and yeah, I think I hadn't witnessed any sort of story or poetry up until that point. Everything it was all song for me anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what really drew me to you and made me sit down next to you was because you told a story. And there were so many beautiful songs that we were all singing together and musicians. Um, and yeah, that's for me what's united us is that yeah, that affinity for story, which is always around the fire, but not so much as song is these days. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to know, were you like born into the sort of a magical world? Were you born into a creative world? Like, yeah, what happened? When did the seed sprout and what do you think, germinated that and nurtured that seed?
Right, I wasn't. Well, I was born on a Friday the 13th on the dark of the moon, so a bit of a magical arrival, or a mysterious arrival. Son of an engineer and a teacher, so really practical upbringing, and it didn't really. Ugh, my creative blossoming, and I'm absolutely prolific in what I do, creativity wise, didn't really kick off until I think it was until walking home one night after a party. It was a long way home. So a friend said, "Tell me a story about who lives in that house." And I was like, and he just kicked off inventing it out of his imagination. And I thought, wait a minute, that's such a gift. Where is it in me? And it wasn't until literally encountering storytelling being done again that I went off on a really great journey, and I have some really met some quite amazing mentors, particularly David Campbell and Duncan Williamson, uh, Ronald Hutton, who we both know, really amazing people. But also around the same time, and I'm going back 30 odd years ago now, I encountered sound in its most primordial way through meeting an Aborigine guy, and it just got me here. Then joining a camp of druids, ovates, and bards that had a ceremony space, and that's when I encountered the Awen, which is why we're here also, because it's had a great effect on both our lives, and that's the kind of magic, Celtic magic, Welsh magic, particularly Welsh. Is it magic? Is it? I'm still work, working out what is the Arwen after 30 years of working with it, using it. Yeah, you've got to get the reins on it sometimes, even if that is folly. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be embodied. It's got to, and this is what yeah, why I've brought you into well, not only this podcast but a shared course that we're going to be hosting actually. So just a little trickle here. Um, yeah, because if you're experiencing embody like a 30 years plus embodying what the Arwen is without even knowing,
Yeah, it's
what
a
it
gift.
is, really. And for those of you who are just listening to this now, you might be new. Awen is a very ancient word from Britain. It's a proto-Celtic, so it's prior to Wales and England and all these places beginning. It's deep within the roots of the poetic and oral culture of Wales before we had a written language, and it's gosh, I mean, we've got a whole course that's where we're going to be diving into Awen, and it's a course that I've hosted before, which you attended, and because of the insights that you brought to that course as an attendee, as a student, I guess I thought I've got to have you in and share those insights as well. Um, yeah, so you've lived in a few different places and you're influenced by lots of different cultural traditions, and it seems that it is the sound, and it's the expression of the voice and of these people and their unique relationships that they have to using their voice in tandem with, I will call it magic, and yeah, and then how you use that yourself. But I'm one story of that always fascinates me is the monks and the weather and this relationship with the monks and their singing and the weather that I'd love you to just touch on, because that is found throughout the world, especially in the ancient British and Welsh craft of Arwen and magicians, is this connection between us, our voice, and the elements.
Yeah, you're referring to. I spent 9 months teaching in a Buddhist monastery in the foothills of the Himalayas. But as you said that, it's making me think of actually, even though my father was an engineer, he was also a sailor who had a reputation for calling the wind by whistling on a calm day. And even after he died, I was on a storytelling course, and they dedicated the story we were telling to John Shapley, the engineer who whistled for the wind, and even mentioning that a wind came and rattled the hut that they were in. And I've seen similar things with the monks up in Tibet, where they might be doing a 3 hour a day, 7 day a week ceremony to bless someone's travels or their business. And I've been outside on a calm day when they're doing their stuff inside. And the moment they stop, the wind just comes in. And it's something I don't know, I've got a nice dancey relationship to the wind, even on a simple level where the wind's blowing the leaves around and I might sing the Awen. It feels like I'm entering into a deeper conversation. Particularly, I've noticed of late when I address the Awen as a feminine uh, mystery. In a way, it's so tricky to define. And yet, it's like when you know you're on a poetic role, you know you're on a poetic role. When the poetic role takes you and you can't stop and you just surrender to it, that for me is entering the Arwen. And sometimes you might realize 20 years later, oh, wait a minute, we went up that hill together and we found two trees and we all sung an Arwen together and thought, right, we're going to enter the other realm. And things, people experience a huge variety of things that we then come back and talk about. And I think I actually met my wife inside that one particular adventure. I won't go into it now, but maybe later. I don't know. There's many a story. I'm sure you've got a similar one. How did you first come across the Arwen?
How did I first come across the Awen? Gosh,
Or when it came across you?
me. I mean, I'd been like without knowing what it was, like with it, like without putting a label to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, through rap and poetry and emceeing after a so I was into writing rap songs just from really young, just into like crappy R&B mainstream, ladies that I don't even need to name their names, but I would just like write songs like them. And then I had a psilocybin mushroom experience where yeah, encountered, yeah, Awen in a way that after I was able to just write like just so freely and so easily and just surrender into these word games and playing with words in a way that just, yeah, like you said, you don't, it's not even like it's after you like, oh, that's where I was. You
Yeah.
read it back and you're like, wow, that came from me. And yeah, that was my experience. But it's only looking back that I'm like, oh, that's what I would call being with the Awen. And I feel that when I'm painting and when I'm drawing, and it's a very similar feeling of just letting go and releasing and allowing, like being the vessel, being that cauldron. In the stories of Awen, Awen could be a force, a mystery, or an energy. It's a potion in the story that me and you are going to be telling as a part of this course. But it's like this potion is accessed when you become the cauldron, in a sense, just the vessel to, and there's so much to it. But yeah, thanks for asking that. Yeah.
It's a bit like, it's a wee bit like if there's a pot of dye and a white sheet and it goes in once and then it comes out and dries, it fades. And but it goes stronger every time you enter whatever the cauldron is holding. And it's so I've got 30 years of being being dipped in the cauldron and pulled off on mad adventures that might it might be just as quick as once you practice it for a while,
Mm.
and practice surrendering, you tend to find the relationship's always there. So I might have a sudden instinct, right, run down to that crystal shop. There's something here, there's something here. That one, buy it. And then this particular incidence was, I think I was trying to impress a young lady at the time. That can happen. Got this, there's a tiny double terminated amethyst sitting on top of a rock. Just got there before someone else who had their eye on it got it, came back to the shop and gave the amethyst crystal to this young lady. And she said, "How did you know?" And I said, I just knew I had to run from the shop now and get this and give it to you. And she said, "Well, that's what I dreamed about last night." And that's actually quite a strong theme from growing up. I mean, we all have much more vivid dreams when we're sleeping. Uh, Mine were particularly full on. Being born in March the 13th, with a whole whack of planets in Pisces in the 12th house. Like, yeah. And like you, trying to write it down, I didn't really have a label for it. It wasn't nurtured until I met other creatives who all tap in their own way. And yet, when it was using the Arwen, it was like just as a as a way to enter into the mystery, the deep mystery of Welsh magic, let's say. Uh, then it really began to flow, and learning to enter into flow states. So, for example, I might, over the years, it's like, okay, well, if singing the Arwen or chanting the Arwen out in nature is a way to connect to the elements. I mean, one of my jobs is finding and making staffs like this. I can just show you that. There you go. That's one staff. And you see at the bottom, these twists are natural. So the sap runs up and down the tree with the seasons and with the moon. The honeysuckle follows the path of the sun, grips the tree, and it's the wrestle when the tree tries to come away. And they're few and far between in a forest. So what I will always do is find a mother tree, have a hug, sing a few times, and then just this, and then some radar connection right that way. And I might think, right, it's 2 miles that way. And if I follow it, sure enough, I find them. And if I don't approach it that way, or without leaving a gift, then I don't find them. It's strong connection.
Can I share?
Oh, you got your one there. Ooh. Ah. Ooh.
Some old wizard in a blue cloak gifted
Oh, that's one.
in the
Yeah.
celebration of Calangaeaf or Samhain, not far from where he was born, actually. But before I go on to that story, the I so before during the first course, the course that we're going to be hosting together online is called Awen Awakens. You shared that story, or not that specific story, but the story of how you interact with the woodland to receive the staff, right? And I do the same thing. I've never gone to receive a staff in that way. It never felt right. I think maybe I was waiting for you to give me this one. But yeah, just instinctively just to sing Awen, and for those who are listening right now, Awen. I invite you actually in this moment to just say it. Awen.
Oh.
Awen.
Um,
It's a very, very old word that the land of Britain knows very well. And I would sing that, and me and friends do. And I think just generally, if you're in the sort of like druidic scenes in the UK, um, we're just drawn to singing it and, echoing it, cascading it, as you say. But yeah, I was drawn one day to go out and sing that and offer to the large beech tree. So my house is called Beach House, and I live just in front of a native, there's a small patch of native woodland, but it's protected. There's a giant beech tree behind the house, and I think my house is called Beech Tree because of that giant beech tree, and it's a beech woodland. It's a Northern European beech woodland. And I did exactly what you just said that you did, and then was guided on this journey around the woods, and then found this thing that I've actually realized I shouldn't tell people what it is. So I am like, I have this knowing, and the woods are like, don't, you could tell this much of the story, but you can't tell people what we gifted you. And when I did start telling people what was gifted to me after I'd gone on that journey, I was having far less magical experiences, and the woodland wasn't receptive to me because I'd like broken trust. But yeah, anyway, you told that story. You said, because I think I asked, what does Arwen mean to you in the course? And you shared that, and I was like, oh my God, that's what I do. And I've met other people who do that as well, and it's not like we've been given this user manual on how to connect to the trees in the woods. It's just, yeah, do you feel it's just instinctive, or were you guided to do that? Or yeah, what's your experience there with that practice?
I'm trying to remember. So on the Druid camp, before any focused ceremonial work, there would be the chanting of the Awen, and uh, a lot of the druids there had really beautiful staffs that I just got amazed by, and there was this desire to go and find one, and a druidess called Rebecca. She took me on a walk and then just said, "Tell me the story of you finding your staff," as we walked through the forest. So I just stumbled through a story, getting more and more frustrated that I can't see any of these naturally spiral staffs anywhere, and just invented a story uh, of finding a staff and got utterly frustrated because nothing was there, and then gave up. And she just had a twinkle in her eye and said, "Look over there." And there was my first staff. We'd stopped without me knowing it right there. And we'd sung the Arwen together to sort of kick us off on our journey. It's almost like, is it opening a portal to another dimension? I don't know, it's where the world's, the hidden, the unseen world, which is everywhere in everything. Modern physics will say just as much. It's like stepping into a stream flowing down from a dream into the ocean of chi. That's what it feels like to me. Uh, but it won't. I think it just is. It'll activate whatever your inherent. If you had a harp inside and each string was a creative power that lies dormant, it will start plucking the strings, then it will start playing, and you realize, wait a minute, this does come from the unseen world, and there are beings who live there, and they have completely different perceptions, understandings than we do, including whatever happens here. Well, it kicked off there. It kicked off, everything kicks off in the unseen, even our own lives within our mother. And um, so a lot of the journey was playing around with, wait a minute, I can say when I can explore singing and get to like my voice, and every little every little note might pluck another inner harp string, and before you know it, kind of got used to deeper experiences would come the more I kind of embodied however many times I've dipped myself into it as a robe. I can now wear this robe because I've got lots of experiences. Deeper experiences would come, making it as beautiful a calling to, right, I'm ready to surrender. What's next? What's next along the, and doing it in a woodland just transforms it to not just walking through a woodland, but you're noticing lights and shadows on a tree, and you start noticing, my God, the whole place is just full of expressions of half hidden things.
Mm.
And it, encountering the Fae in real life, well, there's Celtic legends are full of the surprises that can happen. You can be taken away by it. You really can. You
Mm.
really can. You can disappear for a year and a day, or not function in modern society as well, according to what you were taught at school, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot of stories around about like, yeah, encountering the Fae, going into the other world, coming back as either a madman or a poet. And
Yeah.
perhaps they, I mean, you could be both, and maybe that's the best place to be, is to be both. Um, yeah, like with like working with like magic and the voice, like intention. I think anyone who sort of practices any form of like magic is we hear over and over again intention. It's all about intention. Like, why is it all about intention? Because you might have like an opera singer, or you might have someone who's just singing in a choir doing exactly what you're doing, and they're not encountering otherworldly time-boggling experiences where they're gifted the most beautiful staff and scorned by a fairy. They're not, just because they're singing in a choir. But as soon as you start to work with the voice with the intention to communicate with the unseen and communicate with nature, that's when things start to open up. And I think it's like we just decide to become aware, and perhaps we have this filter that's there to not protect us, but to keep us in check, to help us to build that concrete house, to help us to navigate that crane, to help us to look after children and look after grandparents. But then as soon as we decide that we want to lift that filter, that's when we start to relate to the world in a magical way, and yeah, it's all very much about, yeah, that intention, and just going to places like Obod gatherings and druid ceremonies and things like that. Your collective intention is so strong.
Yeah.
As you said at the beginning, with like the white sheet and dipping it into the ink. When you start to join groups of people, you've got a cloak that's being splashed on by the people that you're around. And, even when you're just singing at home, you probably do it. You just stop and you just start using your voice in the kitchen as you're making a cup of tea, and just enter a little bit of another world and come back in. Oh, well, oh yeah, carry on making my cup of tea now, and yes, we do it, and people hum, and they like short, just a short snippet. My nan, she hums, and I think a lot of women hum, and it's this like trapped hum because we've been closed down for ages. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was never confident in my voice or anything, but as soon as I decided to relate to my voice as a like something that can, like, I don't know, interact with the world, and not it's not just performance. In our Western world, the voice and song is performance. As soon as I was like, oh, it's a communication tool, um yeah, things just started to change, and now I can just
Yeah,
make sounds and
yeah.
yeah.
It's it's like, when probably for you when it's a spontaneous rap swirls you up, and if you don't write it down or record it, it's gone.
Hmm.
The more you do it, the more you can learn to, maybe just entering that silence to build the intention. Like, in other chats we've had, I think you said you always get into that upper above the head space first. It's very different doing that and then singing the Arwen to singing round the house. So oh, there's levels, and it's, the one side of the brain will want to try and understand it and go into the history and the academic side of it a little bit. You're probably firmly dealing with the other side of the brain, entering those realms, the dreamy states, the creative states, the uh, oracular states, even. And that does shift your worldview. If you look at the Tibetans who have people that become their oracles, what a ceremony they have. I've seen them. That, whoa, and they have to be restrained physically until they go boom. I've seen the future.
Mm,
Dum, Dalai Lama, leave now.
mm,
Escape Tibet tonight. Must be done. Things like that. It's I've experienced that side, but more in a uh, just like where you first met me. I arrived at that meeting completely not knowing why I was there, what it was about. Happened to me meeting someone who said, "Come to this place later on," and it was the 12th lesson of a stage mediumship course where everyone was going to take a turn on stage. And she just said, "Right, Ken, up you go." And it's like, I haven't been trained in this, but it's like, right, you've got to do it. And like you got into that space, did an inner Arwen, and I scared myself. I could go. You used to live at 56 Lambourne Road. You sat there on the balcony overlooking the cricket ground with your mate Harry. Harry's with me now. You've got a red painted wooden thing outside your front door for bottles of milk to go. The guy started crying. Can you imagine? Hello, as me in a blue robe hanging about Orpington High Street as a soothsayer. Hello, would you like a wee message? No, no. But there's moments as maybe I'm just getting into being an elder now. I'm only 61, but still feel like a teenager. So I'm developing that say less, say less, but when you speak, because
mm.
you get instincts with people. For some reason, you might be sat next to someone and you want to. I know you're just driven to talk about. I don't know. Have you noticed there's a five-pointed star on top of a rowan berry? It's like, oh yeah, I noticed that. And or you tune in to what the other person, what's on top for them or what's deep with them, and bring it into a conversation. That's the same as channeling in a normal way. And like mothers with kids, you're doing it all the time. They're doing it all the time. There's
Yes, well, yeah. So my yeah.
constant.
So my grandma, my great grandmother Lucy, her parents were deaf and couldn't speak properly, and she had four brothers and sisters. And I've asked her, well, how did your mum know you were crying? And she went, well, it's instinct. Mothers just know what's happening with their children all the time. And she was deaf. So. Um, yeah, with the channeling as well, the Alwanith were people who specifically, more recently, worked with you know, this isn't a ancient thousand year old tradition or anything, but they worked with the Awen in a way of prophecy and oracular power where they would use sound and sing to go into trance states, and people would come and ask them what, you know, they'd have to be pinned down as well, like you were saying with the Tibetan monks, and ask them
I could do
questions.
that as a workshop. Next time we meet, get the skills together, you can pin me down and see what I come up with.
Perhaps when I have been initiated into that world of channeling, which I have not yet. Or you have though. I mean, but it's an online course. It's an online course, Ken. We can't pin you down across
No,
the
next time we meet, okay?
yeah. I mean, if you're up for it.
I think I'm ready now. Yeah, I'm ready now. To
At the prime age of 60 when you're ready to tell people their futures. I mean,
well,
I would trust that more than I think, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's a silly notion, but I feel
no,
like
I don't think so. No, no.
trusting someone older, well, no, it's not really, isn't it? Is it? You know, trusting someone older, your intuition's got to be a lot stronger than someone younger. And, you know, there are a lot of young people who just jump into the world of channeling without any discernment whatsoever. And there's, with the Bardic craft and these ancient poetic crafts of Britain and Wales, it was a craft, it was a skill to be harnessed. And this is something where I recognize in you that you respect that and you respect the craft of all of these things. And in, yeah, not like egotistically or outgoingly trying, like, you know, giving your knowledge to people and trying to teach people about it. Like, actually, when I first met you, I think at Love Jam, you know, you said, maybe it's my time to be a bard now. Maybe I'm going into my elder age. And I was like, yes, I think it's time. And
Yeah. But
yeah, very surprised that you haven't been. I know that you have you mentor some people sort of on an individual basis, and from what you've explained, it sort of comes to you. You don't go seeking it. Someone comes and it feels like it's the right time, and then you know you can you share the story of if it feels right of you guided someone to find a staff? Was it one of your
yeah.
students?
Okay, yeah. So set the scene. Been living in Edinburgh. Huge storytelling network. Absolutely spoiled at every party where it was. You could be a listener, but everyone would sing a song, share a story, even if it's a joke or a memory. You know, it didn't really matter. It was just really rich gathering. And I had students coming to live with me for a week to learn English, all different levels. And one girl from France, Clara, she came as a very innocent 15, 16-year-old for 3 weeks. Had a fascination with Lord of the Rings. She had about 2,000 pictures on her phone of dwarves. And at that time, I've been gathering staffs, and there's a very magical place southeast of Edinburgh called Roslin Glen, where ancient rocks from Iceland, deep down, there's a great big vein of them that goes under the sea and then comes up in this magical glen that everyone that goes there can just feel the magic. Maybe it's because the stone's so ancient there, I don't know. So we went for a wee wander, and it's quite, you know, you've got to keep your wits about you. It's really steep, dangerous place. And we came down, we walked along the path, we sat watching an open field, and deer jumped up when we were speaking, and went past the fallen tree with a root, and it had an eagle behind it, flew out. And I thought, right, this is we're prepared now. This is nature is revealing the wonders of itself to us already. I mean, how often do you come across an eagle when you're on the floor that flies out in front of you like this? So there's a river. He says, right. We looked across, and on the other side of the river saw some beautiful natural spiral staffs. And we thought, right, we're going to have to wade across this river. to find it. And just as we did, we just heard this. And I heard a splash, and it was a great big deer that had just seen us getting ready to go across, and it had leapt huge river. So he went across, sang the Awen, left a gift of chocolate, or was it tobacco? I can't remember, one of the two. All felt good. Hers was a holly staff as well. Yeah, it was a holly. They make beautiful, beautiful ones. And then came back over the river and said, right, so here's your staff. So let's just attune you with it and show you how you can use it to call in the four directions. Ubiquitous around the world, call in the four directions. There's so many flavors. So sort I went round doing how I would do it. She would repeat whatever I said. And then we just asked that this staff be imbued with earth, air, fire, water, and the ether, let's say. And when she got home, her mum noticed whenever she touched her staff, it would really start raining, even to the level of having floods, and took it away from her teenage daughter for a while. Probably thought about should I send my daughter back to Edinburgh? I don't know. But after 5 years, she had so many stories of right. Maybe it's just the relationship she had or the magical way she found her staff, was guided to it. But the Arwen was essentially what we'd sang before coming down into the valley with the intention of finding her staff. And for her, it was she'll never forget the experience. She's she's now a PhD. Her English is PhD level now.
Wow, yeah.
It's not all down to me. She really put the hard work in, and she's a amazing storyteller, singer, folklorist. And I'll ask her before the next one. I'll ask her, does she ever still sing the Arwen as a way to enter into the magical world of uh, discovery of difficult to say more.
Yeah, thanks for sharing Clara's story. Um, yeah, it's really incredible how this particular sound, and I don't want to say word because one thing when we do the course, one session that you're going to be more heavily involved in is where we're going to be working with sound and shape of sound, but with like a drilled in point that we're not talking about letters and we're not talking about words and we're not talking about meanings, and to really just come back to how it feels in the body to make the sounds and how it feels to surrender and allow the sound to move the body. And we live in a culture where everything is just like there's meaning associated with symbol. And I learned from Josh Schrey. I think that's how you pronounce his last name, but he's a brilliant storyteller. But yeah, he was talking about the origin. Oh, was it him? No, it was David Abram, actually. David Abram. He wrote a book called Spell of the Sensuous, which is a brilliant book about oral culture and sensuously relating to spelling and words and language. And he was talking about how the first alphabets, we didn't write down the vowels, we only wrote down the consonants for like hundreds, maybe even thousands of years, because of the vowel was such a sacred sound, and the share of the breath and sharing words between breath. And he was talking about how like we used to deeply revere and honor the breath and the space between each other because we knew that's how we shared stories with each other, and we wouldn't ever dare to pollute it. And because we've forgotten about this space between us, which is where stories are shared and sounds are shared. He thinks that the pollution of the air sort of and the not pollution but the disrespect for the air and the unseen realms actually correlates with us writing down vowels and trying to like hold them into something. But yeah, anyway, in that session of the course, we're going to be trying to embody and understand that. It's not even an understand, an embody and a feel that. Yes.
I
So
remember meeting Caitlin Matthews years and years back,
yeah,
right on that, and we'd seen each other around the fire, uh, and I think she just said, "Come with me." Went into her tent. She lied down, lay down. I thought, "Wait a minute, what's this?" And she said, "Lay down next to me." Just held my hand, and then just said, "You're not an Arawanith, an Arawanithian." I've just remembered that now. And that respecting the sound, I think this links back to that you asked me about the Tibet story. I'll just do it really quickly. Even in a very long, week-long chant, at the end of every chant the Tibetan monks did, they just went through the whole alphabet, sounding the sounds as this is the purest form of how we can say the alphabet. If we've mispronounced anything in the chant, this is our a sort of a smudging if we've mispronounced that. Oh, I found that in ink, and it wasn't a short thing. This was a 5 minute thing. They'd really go through. So everyone's brought up with ABCDEFGHI, which is way different from ba, ka, da. They're all powers in their own right, as well. Even the word is spell, isn't it? So
yeah, yeah. And then this, so
where was the class in that at school?
yeah. So I was just going to ask you a question, and I am going to ask it. But I just brought up Josh Schrey because so what he did say was he was talking about Zeus, and he was talking about how Zeus, so all of the Greek, and I didn't quite understand this until he taught this in an online course I was doing, but he'd said that the Greek stories and gods and deities that we know of today were written down by Romans 500 years before they were being told by Greeks, but the Greeks were telling them hundreds of years after they were actually being worshipped properly. So the understanding we have of like Zeus, Thor, all these people, like not Thor, sorry, Zeus, I can't the Dionysus, like all these old, Greek and Mediterranean deities and gods, is nothing like what they originally meant. So Zeus, he was talking about if you just say Zeus, 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 like z, z, like and the shape of a lightning when we draw it is a z. And this story of Zeus and who lightning was, that feeling of Zeus, it just blew my mind to think about how to the original people who worked with this word, this sound, when they said Zeus, they felt the power of the lightning. And now we today have this symbol of a Z that I don't even think we've related to the sound of Zeus. And when you say it, it feels like lightning in the body. Just the letters there, it's like zips you up. Zip is begins with a Z. It's just crazy when you really go into how the words and the sounds work, and what an invitation in this life to forget about our modern literary world and return to sound again. And my question was, before we jump off and finish the podcast, I'd love you to go into an experience, an otherworldly experience. An otherworldly experience for us. I mean, I've a few that you've shared with me come to mind, or do you want what comes to mind for you, or do you want me to share one?
Uh, yeah, remind me. But we've
So you were talking about because you were talking about what we could discuss in the podcast. Yeah, I guess like quite a warning that you had from the Fae with the Rowan
oh,
at King Arthur's seat, was it?
Arthur's Seat in Edinburgh. which, if you don't know, is a volcanic plug of a volcano. It's 180 million year old rock. It's quite a thing to to be there. Um, it's not a difficult climb, but you can really feel that this place has, you know, an underworld coming up to the surface as a volcano. And I'm I'm really into my photography. Um, I've tried to put this. No, I tried to put the finding of Clara's staff into a little video. I'll share the link sometime. But this one day, freezing cold, much like outside, there's frost and snow on the ground, and I was really into macro photography, particularly of frost. And so, to cut a long story short, that day I put everything that I had that was warm on. It was a snow leopard onesie with a ski suit on top. I had my camera. There's a road that you drive up around Arthur's Seat, and I just got straight there and lay down in the frost with the macro lens. And each little tiny little frost crystal on a blade of grass is like a six-sided expanding trumpet horn. It's incredible. And the more you lie there, the more you get into that world. You forget the outside world. You're in the land of the small, in the fairy realm, so to speak. And the lights, the sunlight coming through the grass, and all the ice crystals, and you suddenly find one, and it looks like a palace or a collection of them, and you get intrigued. And I can remember reaching behind the camera and pushing aside a clump of grass so the sunlight would come through and I could get that picture. And then it melted onto my hand, the water, and I went to put it in my mouth, and a little voice said, I wouldn't do that. Or that's unlucky. That was it. That's unlucky. It's almost like me being there had destroyed that little realm. And then I got back to the car and I thought, right, I'll swap the macro lens for a normal one. So I had the door open, sat there, changed my lens, got out, closed the door, and looking at the car, I didn't touch it. All the locks went unlocked. And then I looked in and my keys were inside. This is an old car. It never done this before. So it's a long trek back home, go and see the estate agent, get the spare key, come all the way back. And on the way back, they have a barrier and they block the road up Arthur's Seat off at night time because it's too dangerous. Explained to the policeman there, my car's up there. And he said, come on, I'll give you a lift. So on the way, big strapping rugby player of a policeman. He said, so why is your car locked up there? So I told him the whole story of what I was doing, thinking he's just going to think I'm mad. And we got to the car and he parked and he said, so where were you? Entering the fairy realm with your photography. I said, up there. And he said, well, look, man, rowan tree, 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 some of which had little, strips of cloth there that people had done ceremony with. He said, did you make an offering before you entered their world? I said, no. And he said, well, they've tricked you. That's the fairy folk for you. And it was so comforting on the one hand, not to be treated as a nutter by an authority, a policeman, boom, they're just, and to a native Celt, it's like, of course they're there. Of course they are. They've got pentagrams on each berry, for heaven's sake. And then you find out, oh, there's plenty of stories about the fairies bringing the rowan tree to this world. So that was a lesson that it took a few more experiences to really appreciate that if you don't approach this in the right way, you will get tricked. and have a story to tell. You know, it's nothing dramatic, but it is approached with caution. Or you know, there's a preparation, there's an experience, there's a stepping out, and then there's regrounding with your blanket being dipped in the dye again, probably with a splash from the policeman there. That's yeah, just makes your cloak more colourful. Brilliant stuff. Love it.
Yeah, I love that story. It's the policeman. It's, it's the policeman part. And um, yeah, I wonder if he went and told his other police friends and
I'm
colleagues about that, or if it's just his little secret, and or if it's a known thing. Um,
sure every family in Scotland, probably in Wales too, probably in Cornwall too, probably in every culture, they'll have a story of. And everyone's probably got a wee story of.
yeah. If you live a little bit further from the industrial world is just like,
Oh,
we've
yeah,
got the knockers, with the mines and everything. We've got the knockers, the Coblenai, that, um, if I think, God, it's got to be a similar story everywhere where there's mines, but they'll guide you and help you to get to the iron or coal or whatever it is that you're looking for. Or it's either that they're helping you or they're warning you. I
yeah,
guess it depends on the result of your
yeah.
the result, is like, are you being crushed by a mine, or have you been led to, a bounty, you know? Who knows? But yeah, a lot of our in South Wales where I'm from, where it's very industrial, and a lot of us don't speak Welsh fluently, natively. Yeah, it's the mining it's all just mining town, just massively industrialized. The river was black for 100 years. So a lot of our stories and folk tales are just very dark, actually, just in reflecting on how we've treated the land.
And
Yeah,
you couldn't go home and have a hot shower in these days. You had to get the water, boil it. Oh,
yeah, yeah. You
within
couldn't
clean.
go anywhere near the water here. You couldn't go anywhere near it. All of the houses are built facing away from our main river because of how awful it was. Yeah, over 100 years, the River Taff was black. And the River Taff powered the Industrial Revolution that actually powered the world. Yeah, a lot of industry around the world. It's wild, but I've been learning a lot about this recently. This river, deep mapping, which is where you're like looking at the map of a place, but you're looking at like the folklore, the history, like all the different aspects of the map of the place. And the one spirit of this river is the winch, and the winch in Wales is this lady who's covered in black goo and soot, and she'll lure you into your death. And it's like, is this a warning because the River Taff was toxic, or is she actually there? Was that the state of the spirit of the river after poisoning her for so long, Um, yeah, these fae stories are so deeply entwined with, they're not even entwined with the wild landscape and the ecology. They are a part of it, Um,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
Definitely.
And it's the most like ruthless and resistant spirits and fae that are left over by industry, which, a lot of them fuck off and go away.
Yeah.
Maybe some can't leave. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I mean, being brought up where there wasn't a single mention of the spirit of this place, and yet every tribal culture will really say, even like an Aborigine would say, talking to a uranium mine worker, you better watch that place, mate. That's King Brown Snake dreaming up there. Might not affect you. This will go generational. You go messing there without due respect to, you know, the spirit of that place. And I've met some pretty strong spirits after, even collectively. We'd have on one of the Druid camps, we had a group dreaming where someone would kick off with a like a guided meditation, which we can also do on the course. And this was quite a long one. This would involve breathing in a light body, putting your consciousness in the light body, standing up out your body, going out. Who are the spirits of this land. And whoa, gosh, I came out of it feeling like I had 10 eyes in my head after meeting a lion-headed, leather-winged being. And then going to that place the next day,
Mm.
there were all blackthorn trees with one whitethorn tree, and then meeting a fox that just sat down on the path. And as I was lying down on the path with a mate talking about the experience, and the entrance to that place had one of the most beautiful ones ever from an apple tree, a crab apple tree, just with a few twists. And that's somewhere in Canada now, I think. I worked with it for a long time, and then it felt like it had to go. It was being called somewhere. But those experiences, and I'm sure, because I've tried to look up lion-headed winged deity, that goes way back to ancient Babylonia, Sumeria. It was almost like a fallen angel in a way. It wasn't. It was powerful. It wasn't quite. Didn't have any evilness to it. It was quite lonely, in fact. But it could walk through the forest. It could walk through the forests, and I think that encounter gave me my radar sense, and I've actually had to disconnect from that a wee bit because it gets no, you can experience so much, and then you think, wait a minute, am I actually getting on with my life, my normal life, business life?
You've got to wring the cloth out sometimes, haven't you? And
Oh God,
straighten it out and give it an iron so you can deal with
yeah, Gareth helped me with that on
today's
that
society.
half meeting. He took me deep, and we sort of kind of let that go back. Oh,
Mm.
but similar things. I've met so many people with similar experiences.
Thank you so much for coming and chatting live. And for anyone who is interested in, where to find Ken and hear about more of what Ken's doing, the dates for this course and everything we've got going on. So we are going to be telling the story of Cerridwen, the great muse of poetry and magic of Wales, and the story of Taliesin, Hannah's Taliesin. We're going to be doing a storytelling accompanied by Ken sharing your music. So we've spoken so much about sound, and voice and spell and intention, and yeah, let's listen to what you've got to share with your instruments. I'm going to put the details in the description of this video, but we're going to be doing an online storytelling, like completely free, and sound journey exploration, with space for discussion. And a few weeks after that, the course is going to be out, which is going to be really beautiful. I mean, the last course that I did, it was just so beautiful. I mean, people even made a little WhatsApp group without me knowing, because you guys wanted to share your insights and things. And one of the course members, Dave, sent me a cauldron that he had, yeah, well, he's a woodworker, so we'd made a little wooden cauldron for me, and it was just so beautiful. So yeah, if you're interested in joining us, and it's going to be 4 weeks. The course is called Awen Awakens, and there's two halves to it. You've got the learning aspect and the studying aspect, which is learning about the storytelling and bardic traditions of Wales and Britain, and learning about Taliesin, the what I call the sort of prophetic poet of Wales. And then we've got the more embodiment of Awen and a lot of what we've spoken about today. But we're going to be going on a journey together as a little family, and I just love these experiences so much. The links for those will be down below. And yeah, was there anything that I guess you wanted to share about the course that's to come, or what you're going to be doing, or what your music journeys are like?
It will be, if it's anything like the last one, probably it's a very welcoming space, and it has plenty of space to experience things, and probably go off into little chat rooms in smaller groups doing that again. And I will be just looking at. I've got a really good 30-year history with exploring sound. I won't bring didgeridoo into it too much, but that did teach me, how to get one breath lasting 40 seconds and then link that up to another breath without a drop. And I can play for 45 minutes. And tiny changes. I had to learn tiny changes and pressures of tongue and talking whilst doing it to play the didgeridoo. And that kind of brought in a fascination with chants from other cultures, back to the Awen again, and what we talked about earlier with savoring the flavor of what you're releasing into the world and seeing where it takes you, and then trying again and trying. So we'll be doing lots of fun things to dip your own cloth into your own dye. Let whatever dye the other world is going to put in there with you, and bringing it out into the world in whatever creative way suits you. That's counterbalances the study side in a way. So
Yeah.
it will be welcoming. It will be a lovely welcoming group. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited. One new element that I'm bringing into this is, other than obviously your participation, is the yeah, an invitation for you to relate to your like local ecology and your local landscape a little bit more. Because if you're not aware of the tale of Taliesin, the story, it's a lot to do with animals and landscape. And in the world that we live in now, we're so severed from what's happening around us. I mean, we just went through Christmas, and everyone's houses are full of penguins and reindeers and polar bears, and while the salmon fish is struggling to get upstream, and and all this stuff. So an invitation to drop into and relate a little bit to your local ecology again through study and embodiment. And of course, we're looking at Welsh history. This is a Welsh story. So though me and Ken aren't native Welsh language speakers, we're going to be looking into what the sounds mean and what it really means and feels to like embody these sounds and what that means to you. So there is no need for you to be a Welsh speaker or for you to be Welsh, but if you are wanting to tap into these ancient magical and mystic traditions, if you've got ancestry from here and you want to dive into that and connect to that, it's definitely the place for you. And yeah, as Ken said, we welcome you into that. And if you just want to come to the in bulk storytelling, that's fine as well.
We will learn as much from you in this course as you learn from us, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
Even if you just want to learn a way to get out of a creative doldrum when nothing's happening, the Arwen will lift you out of that.
Well, thank you, everybody. Bless, bless, bless. Awen.
Arwen. Hey.